Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 144 of the High Sensitivity Podcast, and thank you for listening. If it's your first time here, we talk about video game and movie news, as well as what we watched or played over the week. My name is Barry, along with my co-hosts.
My name is Craig. Craig.
My name is also Craig. I don't have anything smart to say, so I'll just not say anything. Go
And
Birds.
go Birds.
Go Birds.
What a way to start, finishing just after they beat the 49ers, Super Bowl
Yep.
bound. You know what
Oh,
else is
man.
Super Bowl bound? Our news. Our news is going
Ooh.
straight to the Super Bowl.
It is.
There it goes.
It has nothing to do with football, though. First, we'll talk about the Xbox Game Developers Conference, which I think is kind of the biggest thing that we have on our board here. Starting off with Elder Scrolls Online, the game that just doesn't continue to die, gets another expansion. I didn't realize, but there are 20 plus expansions to this game,
Wow.
and they're
Oh,
just
wow.
adding another class. Apparently, like there isn't a lot of classes to this to the Elder Scrolls games, but dang, 20 expansions. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Should we be playing this? I remember playing it when it first came out, but like I played it for like an hour and that was it.
It's a valid question, though, Craig. That is.
If it's been going that long, I feel like it has to be somewhat decent.
Yeah, but I think for the most part, like my issue with with that game in particular is like it's the same thing as Elder Scrolls, like Oblivion and or Skyrim. Sorry, I should say Skyrim, and it's just very boring in the beginning. Like most of these games, like much like when we talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 here, it's just so boring that it's sometimes hard to get past the beginning. So.
Yep.
Minecraft Legends gets a nice new trailer and is going to be available on April 18th. It is this kind of weird clash of like action and strategy type game. As I'm kind of known as the strategy person when it comes to, Fire Emblem and Age of Empires. So, because it's included in Game Pass, I'm going to give it a shot. Like it deserves at least some sort of shot here with it. So definitely has piqued my interest a little bit more. But, the last Minecraft like spin-off game, it was only all right. It was that top-down
I
kind of
love
game.
that thing.
So it was,
I beat it. I thought it was awesome, and I thought it was more the same at first, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm ready," but it's not. Something different.
We then have Redfall 2 getting announced to May 2nd. Overall, guys, like I'm not sure. Did you guys watch the trailer? Like, what do you guys think of Redfall? I know opinions for this game are kind of
We'll see. I mean, I'll download it, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Kind of the same thing. It's kind of polarized in terms of like how people feel about it, but I'll download it. It's definitely Game Pass. I'm down to try anything with like some type of vampiric nature to it as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, I for the most part with Redfall, I know people continue to look at this game and go, it's like Left 4 Dead, but it just does not look as good as Left 4 Dead. But there seems to be a little bit of a mixture of the kind of the arcane energy where it's more like powers and stuff, much like we got with Deathloop, which I believe is the same developers of this game here. So we'll have to wait and continue to see what this game continues to show off. But overall, like it's going to be one of these things where it feels like if I don't have friends who are going to play it, I'm probably going to drop it really quickly. So
same.
That's right. That's where I'm at too. I'm excited for the arcane aspect of it because I like what they do, but like as far as I already know it doesn't support couch co-op. So my wife and I were interested in playing it, but we only have one Xbox account. So or at least one Game Pass account. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Forza Motorsport gets a whole new demo, still kind of being said for 2023. There are a lot of rumors saying it's not going to come out in 2023, but Forza Motorsport, I have a feeling that, and maybe it's just me that feels this way, and I know it's not just me because I hear it on the internet all the time. Forza Motorsport just isn't like the Forza game that most people want. A lot of people still really prefer the Horizon games because it's street racing. And I get that Microsoft is trying to have its answer to like Gran Turismo in a way, but there are so many people who just look at this game and go, it just seems like all they're focusing on is the graphics. Like it It doesn't. They
Yeah.
really aren't showing off whatever cool stuff is racing because, well, it's kind of the most, and I'll kind of put it lightly. It's like the most. More track racing, which people are more interested in the street racing when it comes to like Need
Yeah.
for Speed. It's what we all grew up on. So the real racing portion of things seems to be not as. This game just doesn't have the hype that Horizon does. So I'm interested to see
No.
what, like, if this game doesn't end up being as popular as Horizon, do they just scrap motorsport altogether just to come out with more Horizon games quicker?
Yeah. I I don't there's got to be a like people must still be playing these games because they're still making Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsports games. I always play them, but I never play them as long as I do Horizon. I don't mind
Mhm.
track racing and having a more realistic approach to racing, but yeah, I'm not personally like super excited for it. I'll download it cuz it's on Game Pass and I'll probably play it for like 5 to 10 hours and get my fill and move on. But I know there are like diehard sim racing fans, but I don't know if they're
Mhm.
looking at are they looking at Forza? Are they buying Gran Turismo? Or there's one on PC that I always forget the name of that seems like a lot of sim racing fans go to. But I feel like out of all of them, Forza's probably
It's
the
like GT
last pick.
Racing or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I
GTI.
think I mean, we'll have to see, but I feel like at this moment, you still pick Gran Turismo over Forza. I think.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
funny because there are like literal like racing championships. Like I see it on
Mm-hmm.
Sony's channel all the time where there's
Mm-hmm.
like Gran Turismo World Championships. And it's like
Yeah.
I guess people take Forza that no, sorry, I'm Gran Turismo that seriously. Like and it's, a league where you can win money in. It's almost like as intense as driving without having to get into an actual car. It's
Yeah.
it's it's all really strange, but it's cool. Lastly, from the conference, we got a surprise drop of Hi-Fi Rush.
Yes.
And we are going to talk about Hi-Fi Rush and games played this
Yes,
week,
we
let me tell
is.
you.
Yep. Yep.
Yes,
Uh,
we is.
but it's just really nice to see a shadow drop of something like this. And
Mhm.
me personally, I didn't know what to expect until I downloaded it.
Yep.
And, kind of another piece of the news is this game is getting raved on by reviews. Like, it is good. This
Oh
is
my
a
god,
good
yeah.
game, and the fact that
Mm-hmm.
it didn't have like all of the advertising and it just went, okay, this game's available tonight. Go and download it, have fun. And it was like, okay, like this game works perfectly with this
Yeah.
type of system. And maybe this starts to like we've been talking about how Xbox really hasn't had their games for a while. Like they bought all these studios, they even bought Activision, and that's kind of all up in arms right now. So, I kind of can't help but wonder whether or not we're starting to actually see these games just for Xbox come out. We know Redfall's coming out. We know, Gran Turismo's coming out. We know another
Forza.
Elder Scrolls and Fate. Sorry,
Of course.
wow, yeah, you're right. Forza.
Yeah.
We know another Forza's coming out, hopefully this year. We also know that they have other games planned. Like there's a Fable in works. There is another Elder Scrolls in the works. There's still Starfield, which
Yep.
may not come out this year either. There are a lot of talk
Yeah.
about that game not coming out either. So it feels like either 2023 is going to be a year that's empty again for Xbox, or they're just pushing it all back to 2024, and then you finally get all the games you're wondering about. And they still have games like Stalker. Stalker 2 was,
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of just waiting as well with that, because I also wonder, like, what are these teams, I'm trying to think about how to word this because I don't want to sound insensitive, but it's like these games are probably pretty close to done development for the most part.
Mm.
Like these games, when I talk about these games, I'm talking about Stalker 2 and Advance Wars. Like these games were supposed to come out months ago, almost
Yeah.
probably a year now. And due to the war going on in Ukraine, these companies have decided to stop production on this game. So I just kind of wonder whether or not, like, we hear about it all the time where it was like we dumped a bunch of physical cartridges of ET somewhere, and it's like are there
Yeah.
just a bunch of cases of Advanced Wars and Stalker 2 like waiting to be shipped out once things finally calm down, if it ever comes down with the war going on in Ukraine. But
Right.
still though, we have to
I
see
would
where
say,
Xbox is going.
Mm-hmm.
speaking of that, would you gentlemen say, like, we don't have to, I know we don't do this every month at all, but like, would you say that Xbox had the strongest month this month, because when you think about it, they dropped the Personas on Game Pass, which,
Mhm.
regardless of who cares about how portable was, because there's two technical versions of Persona 3 portable, but they dropped portable and golden, and then they kind of came out with the surprise drop with Hi-Fi Rush, and PlayStation has what? Forspoken?
Yeah. Mhm.
And and I
January
mean
is not usually a big month either, which is why
that's
it's
true.
yeah.
Yeah, if anything, I would still say Nintendo had the biggest month.
You think so?
Technically considering that you had Fire Emblem come out, but
Yeah.
not everybody's going to play Hi-Fi Rush. We love, based
Yep.
on what you guys are hearing from us, we love Hi-Fi Rush, but Hi-Fi
Right.
Rush is not a game for everybody. Neither is Fire Emblem, though. But
Mhm.
this game was shadow dropped in a surprise, which is I think it's what we're thinking
Yeah.
about. This was a surprise shadow dropped game, where
Mhm.
with Fire Emblem we knew this game's coming out and it's pretty much lived up to expectations. And
Mhm.
not only that, like yes, those games are on Game Pass. They're also available on Switch, the Persona series now. So both
Mhm.
Persona
Mhm.
4 Golden and P3P yeah, P3P, yeah, are available on Switch, but they're just not available through Game Pass. And again, let me tell
Right.
you,
That's
P3P
fair.
is rough. It is a rough game. So continue enjoying
Yeah.
4 because once you guys try 3, you're ready for a rude awakening.
Um, let me say this about Hi-Fi Rush. It's well known I am a sucker for shadow dropping games. I think it's like it doesn't happen enough and it's the coolest thing ever. But I think for me, it's the fact that one, somehow, some way they managed to make this game without anything really leaking about it at all. And
Mm-hmm.
then to drop it and be like, go play it, and for it to not have any issues that I saw, right? Like it's running smoothly. I
Yeah,
didn't see any issues playing that game. That's crazy in this day and age that nothing that I saw personally leaked about this game ever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that nowadays. I wish it would happen more often because it's just something about watching a direct or an E3 and them saying available now that always just gets me so excited. It's just such a cool thing. It doesn't happen anymore. I want that like the original Sony PlayStation feeling when they're like $2.99, go buy it now or something. You know what I mean? Or go buy it
Yeah.
Friday. Like I miss
yeah.
that. I want more.
But we'll get to talk to more about Hi-Fi Rush after we get done with the news here. Just a couple other smaller ones coming out. Both of these have to do with The Last of Us. Last of Us 2, season 2 has been confirmed. It's been
Yep.
renewed. Of course, it has been. It has been a
Of
very good.
course.
It's been a very good phenomenon for HBO and HBO Max in general. In a slightly somber news, the actress who played Tess in The Last of Us, Annie Warshing, man, I'm
Warshing, I
sorry,
think. Yep.
yeah, dies from at age 45 from cancer. It
Mhm.
just feels like it kind of feels weird in a way where like Tessa's now getting her spotlight in a way because of the show, and
Yeah.
her character dies, and now she dies from her battle with cancer. It's
Yeah.
just sad to see that because she's probably now getting a lot more people are seeing her now just because also with The Last of Us doing so well on HBO, sales for the game have gone up 200 and something percent for
Yep.
for part 1. So now more people are getting to witness her, see her, act, and probably one of like the greatest small roles we've seen in gaming, one of the more
Hmm.
memorable people in gaming, despite the fact that in both the show and in the game, she's not there for a long time. You gotta
She's not.
Yep.
it's just a daily reminder, just to, and especially at age 45, just to never take any day for granted. For
Yep.
sure. That's just going out to anybody there. 45 is a young age
It is.
for people, and
It is. That is.
And she was in a lot of stuff too. Like I remember her in the show Scandal.
yeah,
I know she was in other stuff
Oh
as
yeah,
well,
she
but
was in that.
if you look up like her IMDb or whatever, she was in a ton of stuff. But for our podcast purposes, people will know her best as Tess.
yeah, from the
Yes,
video
and
game, not from
Yeah,
the
not from the show.
not from the
Yeah,
show.
yep.
And then lastly on my news, we have Horizon multiplayer beta, early concept stuff leaked. Kind of came out on a video on Reddit. I was showing this to Craig on Saturday.
Hmm.
But overall, there's been a lot of rumors about the next Horizon game maybe being a multiplayer sort of thing. We don't know whether or not it's going to be something that's a free for all. or whether or not it's, they stick you in the Forbidden West world and you just get to roam around with your friends hunting machine animals, which would probably be pretty fun. I can see the aspect in that, almost like a Monster Hunter type of thing. But just a couple differences I noticed from watching this. One, the characters look way more cartoony, and I think that has to do with the early access stuff that was leaked. I'm hoping the character models are more flushed out, like how Aloy and the rest of the world looks like. Because it'd look really weird to like take anybody who's played Forbidden West, like, you take your really cartoony character and put it in that world, it would kind of feel off in a way. But I have a feeling it's mostly because of the early access stuff. And, if you're interested, make sure to go ahead and watch it. It looks very faithful to the Horizon game, and it looks like it's pretty much just dumping you in the Forbidden West world, which there's tons of stuff to explore in that in general. So we have to see, but Horizon may be getting a multiplayer spinoff.
Maybe.
Maybe. I'd try it. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I would.
I probably wouldn't, honestly.
But that's it for news for me. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'll tie into your multiplayer aspect here, and we have confirmation that there is not only a Far Cry multiplayer in development, but Far Cry 7. Does anybody care that another Far Cry's coming?
I saw it, and I saw 35 to 40 hours when I was reading that article. 35 to 40 hours of my life getting wasted with a 45% completion of the game again. That's what I saw. Just like 6 was to me.
Yeah. I was so hyped for 6 because I thought it was going to be like, all right, this is the one that's going to get me back into Far Cry again, because 5 did not do it for me. And then I went in to 6 ready to go, and I think I got like 6-7 hours in, and like I haven't touched it since.
No, I'm the same way, and I was the one that hyped up this game. I have the ultimate edition of it, downstairs. But my issue is just, and my love for Spanish culture and my culture in general can only take me so far, and like the rest of the stuff is just feels boring. Like it's there's no other way to put it, and I'm not the biggest fan of like all of this leveled loot and then having to wait until you have like you, and I know it's not really waiting because it's kind of appropriate to where you get it. I think a part of me just needs to put it in easy mode just so I can just start running around and just going at my own pace, most likely. And I need to stop getting stopped by every single thing on, in the map, because those are the issues with that game, is that this one character needs you to do too many things for them in order to be their friend or something like that. And then to continue to go on, it's just it's rough. It's fine. Sorry, Far Cry 7 just isn't probably going to do it for me.
If there's one thing I could prop up as like the savior of my gaming habits the past 3 or 4 years, it's been putting things on easy mode. It's been like the greatest revelation for me to tell myself, like, you don't need to try and beat these games on the hardest difficulty anymore. You can put the game on easy and actually have a good time. Like it's been such a freeing thing these past couple of years that, like, not every game, but a lot of games, Far Cry was one of them, where I was like, I'm just going to throw it on easy mode. I did it with Horizon. That was God of War. I played on normal, but like Horizon was the one for me that was like, let me put this on easy mode and let me get that story. And it was the best decision I ever made in that case.
Yeah, that was with Zero Dawn for me, is when I just put it on easy and just started to like just have fun with the rest of it. And I think like as we get older, I think we're starting to understand that more now, just because there's so many games we can play now. When we were younger, we had to save up money for games and we couldn't afford the games we wanted without having to sell something else off. So now that we all have a hearty collection of games, it's just the backlog continues to grow.
Yeah. You have to try and get through them quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So second piece of news here. This one I thought was hilarious. The game the day before gets delayed, but it got delayed because they forgot to trademark the name and somebody else trademarked the name instead of them.
Ooh, so who gets fired then? Somebody's getting fired.
I mean, it's a small team, I believe, that are making it.
Yes, it is.
The like the statement I read was like, it just, it basically slipped their mind that like they needed to trademark this. And now I think it's like a 6-month delay or something like that, where they're like, we gotta figure it out,
So it's
or
a
I don't know if you
9-month delay.
right.
9-month
Like, do
delay
you
is what it is.
rename it? I think they were trying to negotiate with the person who trademarked it at one point, but like, man, that's something that's like you would think would be the first thing you would do when you start making a game. Like, let me trademark the name of this game first. But yeah, I just thought it was hilarious that it somehow managed to slip their mind until it was supposed to come out this month, right?
Yes,
I
I
think it was
believe
this
so,
month.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, or February. This was the
Yeah,
number 1 most wishlist game on Steam.
yeah,
And to kind of have this can really set you back because people will now forget about your game and we'll
yep.
have to see whether or not people are interested in it. I will say, like, I saw that game and I am interested in it. Like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
play it. It just
Same.
seems like a third person, almost Escape from Tarkov type of
Right.
game in which I think I'll enjoy that. I enjoyed the PvP portions of like the Division,
Mm-hmm.
so, and I feel like this is now just a permanent all-on PvP mode from the Division portion of things. So I'm hoping that we get
Yeah.
to see more from this game. They also came out and said that they will release new gameplay footage as long as their lawyers say it's okay. Like
Oh, really?
that's what they're all waiting on here, is that they
Yep.
want to give an update with everything, but due to this copyright thing that Craig mentioned, they can't do anything. And that's what they worry about. I don't think they changed the name. I think for the most part, they will
They
probably
got to
have a.
pay.
I don't know if they're going to pay. They probably have room in court to like say, hey, like,
Yeah.
this is ours. Because copyright law is a very strange thing to
Yeah.
where if the person was maliciously doing the copyright law, you can pay, but then you can also win in court. So,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
we have to see.
It's just interesting.
It is.
And then the last piece of news, which is also interesting, is the League of Legends source code was stolen and was ransomed. They said, "Pay us money, or we will release it." And what I thought was hilarious is Riot Games said, "Nope, we're not paying." Basically, from what I understand from reading, is what could come from this is, the source code is out there now for this game, which means it's going to be way easier to make different types of cheats and stuff for this game. So they
Mhm.
said they're going to be vigilant about trying to make sure that that doesn't happen, and that they were adamant that no customer information was involved in this. But it's just interesting that when this stuff happens more frequently than it probably should. And it's interesting that Riot was like, no, we're not going to pay you. It's not going to happen.
We will
It
we
just
will
takes
not
one USB drive.
negotiate.
Yeah, we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the last piece of news I had.
All right. I also was interested in that Far Cry thing, Craig. So I had that written down.
Mhm.
I heard also that it was supposed to be, or there's like rumors that it's supposed to take place in Alaska. Might be the
That
setting.
Could be
you might
cool.
be able to win me with that. I hate to say it, but you might be able to win me with Alaska.
He's gonna buy that $100 edition again.
Dang it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, Barry. I'm with you. I read that and I was like, I would play something in Alaska. Like, there's not a lot out there that takes place in Alaska, that kind of thing. So
There was that game
uh,
that had Alaska in the title. I forget what it's called. I was on Game Pass at one point. It was like a survival type game. But yeah, that's the only other thing I've ever seen Alaska wise.
yeah, we'll see if it comes to fruition, but that's apparently what the news is right now for that. We know we have about 18 years till that game comes out,
Mhm.
or it takes a while to build a Far Cry game.
It does.
So then, yeah, the only other thing that I had in news today was, so going back to HBO The Last of Us, because we were talking about it earlier, is there was a recent collection of study from the site called Television Stats. And these are the kind of accolades that it has right now, like 2 episodes in. It's the number one most torrented show, the number one most visited Wikipedia page, the number one fastest growing topic on Reddit, the number one fastest growing topic on Twitter. It's got the number one IMDb popularity as of the 27th of January. And this is the bigger one because considering how vast it is, the 16th most searched item or term on Google, which you can imagine how many things are being searched, on Google,
Yeah.
We were talking about Tess earlier and the death of that actress. And, it's crazy what they've already been able to accomplish thus far. 2 episodes in already. I mean, the season 2 thing, we already knew. Like anybody could watch the first episode and say that they were going to make a season 2 of that. But the amount of newcomers to the idea of The Last of Us, people who haven't played the game but had a friend or maybe like a nephew, maybe they bought it for their nephew for Christmas or something, or niece, and they played it, but they know of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's crazy. It kind of shows the power of what a television series can do when done right and when released at the right time. Like keywords are done right, because they did have to do something to keep people watching, and I believe the viewership did up by the second episode. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but
yeah.
but you know, that's the combination of what it was able to accomplish and word of mouth. I don't know why I'm going into it as much, because I know we're just going to talk about the episode 2 and later and what we watched, but that collection of data is very surprising with how popular it is to me, you know. So
Yeah. What's funny to me is like I watch it with my wife, right? We watch it every week, and I've I've forced her to play the first Last of Us, and she's played it 2 times now, and both times she's gotten to like points where she's like, I can't, like it's too difficult, or like I'm too scared to like keep playing it, and she wants to play the second one. And for her, we were watching the second episode and she was like, this is perfect. I can just watch this and then just go play the second game. She's like, I don't have to worry about like, I can't beat this part, so I'm never going to see the ending, because she still doesn't know what the ending of the first game is. So this is the perfect way for her to be like, all right, I got that whole story. Now I can go right into the second one, which in my opinion is better. I know we've talked about that before. Or I mean, maybe the same thing. Maybe she tries the second one and can't get through it, but then you have the second season, so you still get the story. So it's awesome that people are still going to be able to get the entire story of this.
Yeah, and I'm excited for it too. It's just nice to hear that. Again, everybody's kind of saying, "Hey, this is the video game adaptation we've all been waiting for."
Yep.
But it's also like it depends on what you're adapting. Like this game is pretty much a movie in its own right. So the fact that it's it's not hard to imagine that this was adapted, and this was adapted successfully. I just have a feeling, maybe in future gaming things, get the game developers like somewhat active in the role that you're doing. Like Neil Druckmann was, and a lot of people were asking me about this earlier as well, is like, why is this succeeding? Well, Neil Druckmann was a co-director for this entire thing. And essentially, like in most cases, directing a movie, it's almost like their baby. And this goes for any director in any profession here. Whether it's a video game, a movie, it's pretty much, their kid. And they want to see it represented in a light that benefits, them, and, sees all the hard work that got put into it. So it just makes sense that this game is getting what it needs to for the TV show. And, all kudos to them, HBO. It looks like they spared no expense in getting it to work the way they did. The clicker scene, which I know we'll talk about, I loved the way the clickers looked. It was good.
Yep. Now give me my BioShock TV show, you cowards.
Yeah. I'm saying they can follow that story to a T2, and it would be epic. It would be amazing.
Bring in Ken Levine. That's his baby, his BioShock. And HBO would be the right place to do it. He can do his, I mean, that's what happened before. It was supposed to be a movie with Guillermo, right? He was tapped to direct it, and he wanted to do an R-rated movie, and they told him no, so he backed out, and that whole BioShock movie dream died. So HBO, you got Last of Us, now go get BioShock, please.
BioShock would do really well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, yeah.
Absolutely believe that. But speaking of video games, let's talk about the games we played this week.
So many.
I have more of a better feeling for Fire Emblem Engage with final thoughts there. I played Forspoken, and as we've alluded to, I have played the crap out of Hi-Fi Rush, beating that game in a day and a half.
Yeah.
So
I also beat Hi-Fi Rush. I also played Forspoken. I also played Dead Space, and I also played some GoldenEye.
Ooh, okay. This was a busy week for me, so I did the Hi-Fi Rush. I am still boycotting Forspoken. It is
You didn't
unwrapped.
open it.
I didn't open it. I know I
Okay.
talked to you about it, Craig. I
Yep.
Here
did
we
not
go.
open
This
it
is
yet.
this is going to be like if you agree to play it, I'm gonna have you open it live on podcast
Yes.
right here.
Yes.
This is going to be a
Yes.
live opening if we
Yep.
can make you play it. So we'll
We
see.
have to
We'll
make a
get there.
strong argument to open it and
I
not
have
return it.
Yeah.
yes, I have to hear this, and I can't wait now.
Okay.
And then I just played more Persona 4 Golden. I had one of those weeks where I was working a lot, so I couldn't really. I needed something to just like focus on a calendar year and tasks, and that's what that game does. So not a heavy game week for me.
Mm.
All right. So I'll go ahead and talk about Fire Emblem Engage because we talked about that last week. I pretty much have my feeling straight on the game. Definitely, like overall for Fire Emblem Engage, one of the best two Fire Emblem games. It is in my top two for combat wise.
Wow.
Everything they do with the Engage portion of things, bringing back the weapon triangle, getting done with all of the weapon durability crap, which I'm it kind of iffy on for most games. It getting away with all that. This game is so much fun to think of strategically and just have it just makes my brain happy. Does it take me an hour or like 30 minutes to do one of my own turns? Yes. But I'm also playing on classic, so if my
Yes.
unit dies, it dies. Regardless of
Yeah.
that fact, the combat is just that much more refined. But what makes it, I guess, more like apparent and what's kind of on the downslope of the game is the story is pretty cookie cutter. It is like Three Houses story was a lot better, but also you had three different houses and eventually a fourth one that you kind of went through and got to experience different stories from. This one is very very, pretty much down to every Fire Emblem core, and if you've played Emblem games, you kind of know how this story goes. So, like, that's one thing I do want to mention is people looking for the same writing from Three Houses, you're not going to get it with this game, but the combat is just that more fun. The engage feature is a fun addition to it. And, if you're the type of person that doesn't mind like all of the and tropes, I'll say, all the tropes that the Fire Emblem Engage characters like roll into or fit into, as if you can focus on the combat, you're going to have a ton of fun with what the combat offers in this game. It's just that the story and sometimes the characters can definitely be a bit too, in a word, anime for most people.
Oh no.
And,
Yeah.
That's the
but it's
death
just
stroke for me.
but it's just some of those characters. Like and it's the same complaint that I hear. There are these twins early in the game called Fram and Clan. And they're
Yes. Yes,
twins.
there are.
And these two characters are the most, like, I'll come out and say it, kind of the most annoying. Like, all they
Okay.
do is gawk at you and tell you how great you are. And
They
they're
do.
just like, oh my god, look, it's the dragon. It's the divine one is what they keep calling you. And it's like, could you please just be like could you at least be like a little bit normal? Like, could you just not like gawk at me every time I try to talk and get our support conversations up? Like, most of these characters are actually okay, but I can see where people, because Fram and Clan are the two that you meet so early on in the game, they will get on your nerves, and you will, like, it will be a deciding factor if you decide to continue with the game. So
Barry, do they remind you of any kid displayed in a Monster Hunter game? Because I feel like those people are the same way. Like, oh, Hunter, like miraculous hunt. Like, I feel maybe not as blatant, but I was trying to figure out like what other game had like essentially what looks like kids, because they act like kids, like acting that way. Like, oh, Divine One, oh this, oh that. I don't know. They remind me of somebody from a Monster Hunter game. I don't know. Like that reveres you as you
yeah.
progress,
Our first and only
Yep.
agenda item is how
Yep.
to broaden the fan club's reach.
Okay.
This is support conversation one. That's support conversation one for those two.
To drum up people's excitement.
Yes.
Seconded. The only question
I don't like the
is-
voice.
What?
I have an idea. How
Oh,
about we
boy.
spread our message by making pamphlets?
No. Okay. I better understand now.
Yes, you do. But those are my opinions on Engage. Again, the combat is by far top 2 in the entire series, and it is a lot of fun, and it only gets deeper as you go through. So I am very happy with the combat, and that is enough to make me continue to play through the game.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
what do you want to talk about next? Hi-Fi Rush or
Yeah, let's do
Forspoken?
Hi-Fi Rush.
Let's do Hi-Fi Rush, man.
Let's do
I
it.
love
Okay.
it.
So I just went on a little bit of a tangent with Fire Emblem. I'll let one of you two take the lead when it comes to Hi-Fi Rush.
Okay.
Craig, go
So
ahead.
here's what I'll say. I also completed the game, probably about like 7 to 10 hours ish to get through this game, so not extremely long. Um, First initial impressions, and this is the first thing I texted you, Barry, was like, this is the smoothest animation I think I've ever seen in a game ever. Like the art style, like the whole time I'm playing this game, I'm like, if me personally, if I were to ever create my own anime and draw my own anime, this is how I would draw everything in that world. Like I like the heavy black lines are like, I love that stuff. I think it looks so cool. But yeah, just like the cutscenes are so well done that I didn't want to skip any.
Yeah.
The story is like intriguing to me. The characters are all great. And it's a rhythm game at its heart, which I'm a sucker for. And just the
Mhm.
ability to like, I started out with the little, they give you the ability to put like the beat gauge on the bottom of the screen. I started with that, and then eventually I just got rid of it, and you just start listening to the music and you really like get in the zone. And that's when you start getting like those A or S ranks and you start feeling really cool pulling stuff off. And when you get like near the, second half of the game where you have all your support characters and you're like pulling off combos and switching between your support characters on the fly and having them jump in and do their attacks, it feels so good. And it's just so smooth. So for a game that came literally out of nowhere, I think this is like, it's a lock for somewhere in the top for best surprise this year, I think, unless we just get surprised by a million things. I think it's going to end up in my top 10 somewhere, maybe top 5. I don't know, there's a lot of games coming out this year. But yeah, it's just overall like controls well. I think the only thing that I had a minor issue with is I wish there was a sprint button,
Yes.
because I get like, I just do like the tapping 3 times to the beat dash like constantly. But when you're not doing that, your character feels a little slow. Even though he's running, it feels slow. Um, and I think like the upgrades are good. It's just overall like it's well thought out. It's not too overwhelming, but there's enough there that even when you beat the game, like there's more stuff you can go back and do, which I haven't done just because there's so many other games out there. But if this was like a typical January where there's not a whole lot out there, I might consider trying to 100% this game, honestly.
Mhm.
Maybe I go back to it in a lull here when it gets slow, but yeah, overall, like I'm so impressed with this game.
Yeah, Craig, to piggyback your
Mhm.
admiration for the game, a lot of great points there. I was the guy in the introduction and the introductory level waiting for them to introduce dash. I was
Mhm.
like, okay, we got our double jumps, we got all this, and like I agree with you. I think that's one of the for a rhythm based game that's so fast paced in cutscene transitions, battling. That's the one thing that's like slowing it down,
Mhm.
and it's definitely, I mean, if that's what we're if that's our gripe with it, then that's a very well polished game. But
Yep.
that is something that I did notice. I enjoy how the level also responds. Now, I didn't beat the game,
Mhm.
but I got like a 2 hour, maybe 3 hours into it, and I also stop playing. When I say stop, I mean stop moving my character so I can just see him snapping to the beat in addition to just the level reacting to the
Yeah.
same beat. And
Yep.
kudos to the soundtrack. I haven't even gotten through the game, and they were starting off strong with Nine Inch Nails and Black Keys. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yep.
Like
Yep.
just out the gate, just like top notch musical musical numbers, and it's really quite solid. Again, I was trying to figure out what it reminds me of, and I wrote down Scott Pilgrim versus the World
Mhm.
with like Rock Band with like a dash of Ratchet and Clank. It kind of
Yeah.
reminded me, just like with it reminded me of the wrench, battling from Ratchet and Clank. And it's even in the middle parts, it reminded me of, I'll throw one towards you, Barry, a little Scarlet Nexus hub
Mm-hmm.
world in the
Yep.
middle there, a little Scarlet Nexus action where all your friends are together and you're talking,
Yep.
like that kind of thing. So it's a great combination. This is the kind of stuff you want to drop without any notice. We have the big games that you just can't dodge either getting leaked or you having to announce it as developers. But like, from the studio that did Evil Within
Yeah. Wild.
to come back with something like this, keep it a secret, like you were saying earlier, Craig, keeping it like a basic secret. This is the game you drop, and you drop without notice, and it's making a splash clearly. Not everybody is playing it, but I don't know how you don't enjoy it. It's top notch, and I think it'll be it's at least top 15. I'm calling it now. It's in my top 15.
Yeah.
For the year. I don't think I'm going to have 16 other games 15 other games that'll beat it out and make it 16th.
Mm-hmm.
But I am hesitant for top 10 or top 5, like calling it now, because like you said, there are a lot of games that are coming out, but
Right.
Definitely one of the biggest surprises, unless they come out with something insane out of nowhere that,
Yeah.
that could beat it. But great game.
And like, not like, no spoilers or anything, obviously, because you haven't finished it, but like near the ending third of the game, using a Beethoven song to perfection was crazy. Yeah, it's just, the music's great. I mean, I think, like, I'm playing this game and I was like, all right, so it's going to end up in the biggest surprise category. It's going to end up in best soundtrack category. It's probably going to end up in, at least in conversation, in the top 10 for us at the end of the year. That's a lot of categories.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a game that was shadow dropped for it. And
Yeah.
I think that just goes to more credit to them on how well the game was produced. And for the most part, like, you guys pretty much said everything that needs to be said about the game. I just really enjoy some of the references we get. The first boss of the game is a literal JoJo reference. Like, he does poses. It
Mhm.
is so anime, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure wise, and that hooked me in. And then you have references to, like, Left Shark
Yeah.
from
Wild.
from
Out of
Katy
nowhere.
Perry. You
Yep.
get references to Transformers
Mhm.
as well. So it's like there are all these like cool things that it's like, if you're into like media and stuff like that, you're gonna like, they make it very clear that these are references to those things.
Yeah.
So just overall, the game is fun, and what I want to make sure people notice is, we keep saying it's a rhythm game.
Yep.
You don't necessarily need to be playing on the rhythm for it to work, because some people are not rhythmly inclined. That's just how life works with some things. You don't have to play it with a rhythm like that. They do give you all the tools to figure out how to play on the rhythm,
Right.
but you don't have to. I think the game just gets a little, you kind of lose some of the point of the game, I guess is what I'll call it, when you're not playing on rhythm.
Right.
But that's just the way things are. With it, I like the fact that you don't need to be rhythmly inclined to play this game. The fact that you can learn to play it rhythmly only helps you, and they make that very clear in the tutorial. Like, they're just like, hey, you don't have to play it rhythmly, but if you do, you're going to do tons of bonuses. You're going to get those S ranks that people like to get in they're fighting. So it's all right there for you to learn it. You just need to be able to take it. One thing I will say, like, sometimes the dodge mechanic or the parry mechanic, I wasn't the biggest fan of.
Yeah.
I was pretty frustrated sometimes, where some of the bigger enemies you face have this mechanic where you can kill them in one shot if you parry all their attacks. And
Which are
I feel like
rhythm-based.
it's rhythm based.
Yes.
And I feel like just sometimes, like, it feels like if you don't hit the first one, you get hit with the entire combo. And then it's like, okay, I'm almost dead. I now need to use, a special to get my health healed up and that kind of thing. So just, keep that in mind. Like, it might have just been me that had those issues, but there are a lot of times where, like, I know the beat and I know how to do it, but if I miss the first, like, note or something like that, it all just goes crumbling downhill and I get hit by everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would say all the boss battles are extremely creative. Right?
Yes,
Like,
some of the best boss battles.
yeah, because, like, you're like, your first boss battle is pretty typical. And I was like, they set it up as like, all right, there's however many bosses you're going to have to go through. I'm like, okay. But then you start going through them, and like each one is like you're beating them in a completely different way. It's not just like,
Mhm.
here's their health bar, go hit them until they die. I mean, there is that, but like some of the other
That's
stuff
the
they
first
throw,
boss.
yeah, some of the other stuff they
Yes.
throw at you is pretty cool. Like the way they do it. And yeah, I think for me, I'm playing it. I'm like, man, this to me is like the second coming of Lollipop Chainsaw. Like that
Mhm.
type of humor, like I know we're getting
Yeah.
a remaster of that, but like that style and Devil May Cry, I get that too. And even a little,
Yeah.
almost a little Kingdom Hearts ish in the action.
Oh,
But
let's
yeah,
go.
I mean, I felt it, it's almost, it's a guitar, but if you squint your eyes, you can pretend it's a key.
The Keyblade.
Yeah, it's totally a Keyblade. It is
Yeah, it's
totally a
totally.
It's a
Keyblade.
Keyblade. Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you two a question? Number
Yeah.
one, is it too far fetched in our yearly awards coming up this round to do like a top boss in a game category? Like,
That could be
is
cool.
that possible?
Yeah,
I just thought of
Yeah.
that when you were talking about the
No,
bosses.
that's a good
it's
section.
early
Yeah. No,
enough that we can think about it all year and have that
yeah.
in mind when we're playing games.
Exactly. Yeah,
It'd
agreed.
be hard
That's
for
true.
me. It'd be hard for me to pick one from this game though, because I had a
Ooh,
couple
okay,
that I really liked.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think not. Yeah, I think maybe two or three that I really really enjoyed.
The
Yeah, I'd
other
have to
thing that
think
I
about
had.
it, but I'd get it.
Yeah,
The other thing I had is like, do you guys have a game in mind? Because like when I really just like that there's not too many games that do the A rank, S rank kind of thing. You got your Bayonettas, you got your Devil May Cries, but the earliest game that I can remember, and correct me if I'm wrong if you guys have an earlier one, but the earliest game that I can remember that did that ranking is Devil May Cry. Am I wrong?
I
Was
think
that
it
like the
was.
first
I think it
mainstream
might
game to
be
do that?
PlayStation 2, Devil May
Yeah.
Cry. I
Yeah,
think so.
original, like, OG. Because like, I'm trying to
Maybe.
think, I was like, was there just, like, a random Super Nintendo or Sega game that was like, "You got S rank
I don't
for your
think.
battlings?"
I'd have to almost
So,
Google it.
well, yeah, and I guess it depends because I know God of War came out on the PS2 as well,
Yep.
but it wouldn't go S rank. It would count your hits and then say awesome or that kind of thing. It wasn't. I'm not sure if you want to count that in the same league as Devil May Cry, but I feel like still Devil May Cry is the came out
Yeah.
before any of those most
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah. I mean, a quick Google is saying the first time it came out was a PlayStation 2 game, um, uh, called Red Star in
Okay.
2007. So yeah, PlayStation 2 era would have been it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so it's on Hi-Fi Rush. Play it if you aren't already. It's on
Yep.
Game Pass and on Steam for $25. It's not even a full price
Yes.
game.
Worth it.
Keep that in mind. So, I guess it's kind of up to you guys. We can talk about Forspoken. You guys can go into
Let's do
Dead
it.
I can
Space.
Let's
I
do
can grab my
Forspoken.
game.
Yeah, grab
I'm gonna
that
grab
copy. Let's do it.
Grab your copy, yeah.
The real question is going to be for everybody out there is, are we going to put up an argument or are we just going to be like, yeah, you return that right now?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It's
Here we
sealed.
go.
For those
It is
listening and not
sealed.
watching, it is a sealed copy of Forspoken for PS5, not for PC, because nobody should play it on PC with those specs.
No kidding.
Barry,
Reach out
make
All
your
right.
case.
So, and these, I guess we'll both give our impressions on the game overall.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I do think people are being a bit too harsh on this game, just in general. I will admit and I guess I'll start off with the good. I think the combat is fun. I do think there are points in the combat that I do enjoy. I think the parkour is a lot of fun to get around, with the story as well. And the world of Athia, which is the place you go to, does intrigue me. I do enjoy, and it is a very pretty game. Like, that is kind of the good that I can get out with overall. I think the main thing you're going to run into is whether or not the dialogue is too cringy, or the dialogue isn't to you, or you just hate Frey.
Yeah.
She is. The beginning of the game is. I actually feel for Frey. It's like, okay,
Same.
Frey, you could be a likable character, but the thing is that flips
It
within
does.
within
45
two,
minutes. Yeah.
yeah, that flips, and Frey for the most part, and I guess I get why she is the way she is, but
It's a
you can,
choice.
yeah,
Is she
it is a
mean?
choice.
Yes.
Yes.
She
What?
hates everything.
She curses more than I ever would
Yeah.
have thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
she
To the
curses like a
point
New
that it's
Yorker.
uncomfortable. It's like
Really?
it seems forced to me. I don't know. Just personally, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know.
Also, keep in mind, if you are interested, Craig, this is the only game so far that's came out for PlayStation that can do 4K and 120 hertz with a capable TV. So, if you kind of want to see what the PlayStation can do, this is also a good test mark bench for it. Not, that is a point for you to open the game. I'm just going to be
It
honest
is.
with you,
That would be a solid point.
because
I will write down that point.
yeah, that is a
I
point
don't.
to open the game. But
I
go
don't
ahead,
think
Craig.
that. I don't think that Freya looks that good in the game. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I think it's a good looking game. I wouldn't say it's like Horizon level or anything like that.
no, like the character models, I'll definitely say feel a little bit weird. I took
Yeah.
a look at the actress that played Freya.
Mhm.
Like, she's a very pretty actress,
Mhm.
as well there too. And I get a feeling that, and I don't know, she probably had to do motion cap for this,
Yeah.
or I can't tell if they did motion cap or if they just scanned her into the game, for it, and then just kind of had her 3D and 3D character do everything else.
Sure.
But I will admit, character models like seem a little rough. Even like the
Mhm.
first girl that you meet, her character model is rough, and I'm not
Yeah.
completely sure why, because the world itself is pretty. It is a pretty world to
The
like kind of run around in.
the New York portion at the beginning is very well done. I think the world you end up going into it looks good, but it's like very all the same to me, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's just rocks. I think like what was most jarring for me is like you have your first cutscene, right, and it involves a judge, right? And I was like, okay, I'm okay with this entrance, but then you run into that judge later, and at least for me, the jarring discrepancy of how the judge looked in the cutscene to how she looked when I met her in the game was so different. Like I was watching the cutscene and I was like, oh, that's actually really nice, really well done. And then you meet her and like all those facial features were gone and it was just like flat. And I was like, I
Oh
don't know,
wow.
maybe I'm playing on the wrong setting, maybe that's part of the problem. But I'm playing on a 4K 120 hertz TV. And like I went for in this one, I was like, no, I don't care about performance. I want it to look as pretty as possible. And for me, I was like, character models are a little they could be better. But it's not like the end of the world. For me, I think the cuff is obnoxious. Like I
Cuff is obnoxious.
cannot stand, and we had talked about this, Barry, but the fact that they default by having the cuff not only come out of the TV but also talk out of your controller at the same time is
Oh
so
no
dumb.
way.
You can turn it off, right?
But I shouldn't have to.
No,
You
and
shouldn't have. Like you as a player shouldn't have to.
I'm sitting there playing and I'm like, why is it echoing? And I was like, oh, because it's coming out of my controller at the same time. Why would you do this? Why? But I think having only played a couple hours, I agree with you, Barry, that I don't think it's as bad as everybody is like piling onto this game. Now it could get worse. I don't know. Is it enough for me to finish the game? I don't know, just because of the sheer amount of other games that are out there right now. I would say for me, here's my thought, and I'll say this to you, Craig. I would almost lean towards, and maybe Barry will contradict me here, I would almost lean towards not opening it and returning it and buying it when it's inevitably $30 in like a month or two. You know what I mean? Because it's going to happen. This game is just getting absolutely destroyed. And they're going to do like, all right, now it's $29.99, and then pick it up
Well,
again.
yeah, to be fair though, this might be one of those Balan Wonderland games where you see it once and you can never get it again.
Barry, I still see Balan Wonderland at Target for $10. It's still there.
You never know.
It's a masterpiece.
You never know.
I don't think this is a terrible game.
Yeah, I do agree with Craig there with it may be better to return it and then kind of wait till it's like 40 or $30,
Yeah.
which inevitably means you are still opening it just later. Is
Right.
is all
Yes.
it means for us.
I mean, I could open it on camera too when I buy it for $30. Like,
Yeah.
It's true. It's
Um,
true.
that is a very strong point for that. And
yeah,
for the most part, like I think I agree with Craig. That may end up being the best bet is, returning it, wait it till it gets cheaper. Like the main thing here though is we say there's certain good parts about the game, and it is a
Mhm.
technical like 4K 120 hertz
Right.
or frames per second is nice. But then the issue you run into is when you do decide to pick up the game when it's $30 to $40, what are other games that you are playing that you're gonna buy that, and then you're not gonna play it because you're not gonna have it because you're gonna run out
Right.
of time to
I
play it.
just
Yeah.
I just have a strong feeling that we're going to get a very, like, besides Final Fantasy 16, we might get a very easy summer after Breath of the Wild 2.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's still more games that could get dropped. I could be completely stupid in thinking that, but
Right.
I'm leaning towards the original suggestion, like, especially as you guys are talking, because like I literally didn't cancel it out of laziness, even after hearing all the negative, because I pre-ordered it this time last year. Like, it was almost available around this time last year, if I'm incorrect. Like, this was
Mhm.
when you were pre-ordering it. And I just left it because I thought it was going to be great. But I think even though it kind of would be pleasing to open a game just on air. Oh, look at me. I'm all fancy saying
Yep.
on air.
Yep.
I think I'd rather do the the smarter suggestion, which is take it back, get
Yeah.
it for 30.
Yep.
And what I should do is what I should have done, which is
Wait.
take it back,
Do it.
return it,
Do
and
it.
buy Dead Space.
I was
Like,
literally just about to say, I'll give you the smoothest transition. Return it and get Dead Space.
yeah,
It's like the
Now talking about Dead Space.
smoothest transition into Dead Space.
look at
I
that.
agree. Absolutely.
Dead Space is phenomenally well done as a remaster. I think it helps having just played through it like less than 6 months ago, the original Dead Space, and going back and playing it again and noticing how much they've changed. Not just like the upgrade in like textures, but just the amount of stuff they've added into the world that they wouldn't have been able to do on the PS3 or 360 back then. It just helps to immerse you in the game better. Adding in Isaac having lines now was an interesting choice. I wasn't sure I'd be a fan of, but I do like it because he was a silent protagonist in the original Dead Space. He never talked, and now he does. And I think it's for the better. And it's still just as fun to play as it was. What was that? 2008, I think, is when Dead Space came out. But it just feels like a modern horror game, except for the fact that it's like so ingrained in my head because I've beaten it so many times that I'm like on autopilot playing that game. I'm like, yep, this guy's gonna jump out of here. I'm gonna go over here and grab this, and then that guy's gonna come down here. It's just like burned into my brain. But this is gonna be on that list for best remake this year easily, just because it feels almost gross saying good job EA, doesn't it? But like I feel like
Yeah.
they're on a path of redemption a little bit lately. EA, maybe a little, and this is definitely a step in the right direction. Go ahead and remaster 2 and 3 and give me those too, because I'll buy those up immediately.
How long is the original one again?
10 to 15
Like, if
hours.
you could think 10 to 15.
Yeah. I remember when it first came out, I beat it in a weekend. So maybe 8 to 15, depending on how fast or slow you creep through those levels. I tend to run now, right? Because I played it so many times. I'm just like, go, go, go. But like, if you haven't played it in a while and you don't remember where stuff's going to pop out, probably closer to 15 because you're going to be creeping, waiting for stuff to come out of the vents.
Oh, I bet.
Yep. 100% a buy. Easily worth.
Mhm.
I was a little unsure about the $70 price tag, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I know from all the reviews that I've listened to, it's definitely worth it. I have the game, just haven't started it yet.
Mhm.
So, I'll eventually get there too. And from everything I've heard, this is a very true to Dead Space and a very true upgrade from the original, which I think is what more or less we're looking for. Not really just the same, but to further improve on it, which is what it has done.
Barry, I'm pretty proud of the two of us, you and I. as two people who get very scared at games, we powered through Callisto Protocol, and now we're going to be into this remake. Look at us. Look at us.
You guys are doing so well.
Look at us.
Gotta love a good game that makes you jump. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Any other games we wanted to talk about?
Yeah, GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Did anybody else download this off Game Pass?
I have
or Nintendo Switch? I didn't play it on the Switch. I played it on the Xbox. I don't know, like it runs the same. So it's like 30 frames, which I think I was watching like a review video and they were saying that like, yeah, the original ran at like 15 frames on the 64. So like having it run at 30 is an upgrade technically. I don't know, Barry, does this game have the nostalgia that it has for like me at my age for you?
So it does. This was definitely one of the first games I played on N64.
Okay.
I think the main thing that you may want to separate with it too is that the Xbox version has 4K graphics and as much as 4K can
4K.
do with that, as much as the game can do with that.
Right.
And 30 FPS. The Nintendo one has exclusive multiplayer to
online multiplayer.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind when you're maybe trying to pick. Like if you have Game Pass and Nintendo Online, it doesn't matter. It's free when it comes with it for both of them. But just keep that in mind when you're getting it. I think I will eventually play it. The main thing that I worry about is for me, that game has more memories from me playing multiplayer with my brother and like him being Odd Job and us, cursing at each other and, throwing Odd Job's hat around.
Yeah.
And like it's that kind of stuff that definitely makes it a bit more difficult to kind of judge this game with because the story mode I barely remember, if at all.
Really?
Yeah,
but
I
that's
remember
it.
I was that young.
I spent a lot of time with both multiplayer and single player. It does have local multiplayer on Xbox, which I mean, if you're going for true nostalgia, that's what you should do, right? Because true nostalgia is 3 of your friends huddled around a tiny TV and saying, I'm not peeking at your screen while you're
don't screen watch. Don't screen watch.
That was the original. That was the original fighting over screen peeking. Was
my god,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it runs well. It looks, it's a 4K, and it's still like boxy graphics with like their face plastered on, but like it looks better than I remember because of that. Like playing through that first single player level again on the dam, and I was like, man, this looks better than I remember. And obviously it controls better because you got 2 analog sticks instead of 1 from the 64. But if you want true nostalgia, you can just use your 64 controller for your Switch if you really want to go that route.
Them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want the online multiplayer, you got to play on Switch. I don't think there's any plan to ever have that on Xbox, as far as I know. I think that's just straight Nintendo's. That was their deal for giving Microsoft, exclusive rights to it. Even it dropped on Game Pass the other day, and like when I went to download it, it said I already owned it because I own Rare Replay. It's just considered. It's considered part of Rare Replay, and I bought that years ago. So yeah, I think it's a faithful remake. They didn't change anything. It's tough for me to say that like, yeah, this belongs in best remake category at the end of the year because they didn't really do anything.
They just ported it.
They just ported it. They didn't do any work to it. But it's still the same game we remember, and for that it's fun. I'm definitely going to play through all the levels. It has achievements on Xbox, which is cool. If you really want to hunt down, there's like 60 of them. But yeah, I've been having fun with it as like a side note in between Dead Space and Call of Duty. It's nice to kind of throw some GoldenEye on.
How is it? Because one of the things I distinctly remember from playing it, because I did the single and multiplayer as well. That was the game for sleepovers and things like that. But as far as a single player, how is it with heads and arms and stuff still going through doors? Because that was like
there. It's still
there.
Yeah. I literally had
part of the fun.
Yep. Literally had on the second level where there was a door that I couldn't open because the enemy's head was clipped through it and his arms are like going like this. That's
part of the nostalgia. That's part of the nostalgia right there.
And I'm sure I'm I'm not alone. I think everybody else did this, but the first thing I did was load up the damn level and immediately hit pause and just be like, yes, that pause music is so good.
Yeah.
So good. But yeah, it's finally out. We've been asking for this to be released on modern consoles for years and years. So definitely go pick that up for sure.
All right, so with movies and TV shows, I'll come out and say with all the movies and TV shows I watched last time, I only watched The Last of Us this week. I need to watch. I need to watch the new Amazon Prime Video with J Lo, but I haven't gotten there yet. Josh Duhamel are in it too.
Yes.
So I'll be watching that. But what did you guys watch? Anything else other than that?
I put in some work this week, but I guess it was my time. I watched Sick, which is a new horror movie. I watched Megan, the horror movie Megan. I watched The Last of Us, and I binged through the first season, and I'm on to the second season of White Lotus.
Jesus.
I was on a roll this week.
That's a tough act to follow. So I only watched, I'll just say Last of Us, definitely caught up on that. So we can obviously talk Last of Us. The only other thing I watched, and the reason why I reacted, Craig, is my wife and I were trying to figure out what to watch last night. And it was between The Menu and Sick.
Okay.
So we landed on we landed on The Menu.
It's a better choice.
So I'm interested. Okay, good. I'm interested to hear your talk about Sick. So I watched The Menu and the second episode of The Last of Us.
Okay.
So Craig, I want you to talk about The Menu first. Craig,
yes.
We're going to talk about The Menu first because Craig and I have already watched that. So what is your opinion on The Menu?
I really liked it. So
yes.
I'm sorry. Part of me is an artsy kind of person, you know, in enjoying film and television shows, something that really kind of hits home. And like, that's what that film did for me. It had a more artsy flair to it. Now, part of me also loves watching cooking shows, and I appreciate it because, like, deep down, I really love cooking. I'm okay at it. Like, I can, you know, I know that's my way around some spices and stuff like that, but like, I'm not really near any upper echelon type of person. But like watching the dishes and just like the breakdown and the love of like cooking that was shown and such like that, I enjoyed seeing that. Now, the culty chef side and the negative guests that were there and why they were there, like I also partially enjoyed that portion of the movie as well. Number one, I'm forgetting his name, but the guy who played the main character, the foodie gentleman, I'm forgetting like what his name is in real life. But out the get-go, I know you're not supposed to like him, didn't like him.
Super obnoxious.
But you're not but like you're not supposed to, and then you find out later really why you don't like him. But like what I can say is this movie and the invitation, Nicholas Hoult thinking.
Yep.
This movie and The Invitation came out within like 2 weeks of each other. I had already seen The Invitation weeks ago. I wish I would have watched this one. I think it was great. I didn't mind the ending, specifically because of the s'more type of reference, the way that was done. I thought that was tasteful to be corny. But here, let me get.
You really did that. You really did tasteful there.
Tasteful.
Yeah.
I thought it was. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the fun thing about that ending there is like with what the chef does at the s'more thing, it kind of leads into the start of Harry Potter and probably why he has Ralph Fiennes, the actor, has no nose as Lord Voldemort. So I
he
like
burned it
that's
off.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I'm my roommate and I came up with that. So I'm pretty sure The Menu is a prequel for Harry Potter.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting though. So like the only thing I didn't get, gentlemen, with that was, and then I realized it because of the display of how it was done, is like it was kind of weird when she found out, when she saw that old picture of his and where he actually started his love of cooking with him making cheeseburgers. And she brought it back around and presented it to him in like a very challenging way. The guy who's literally had control over this whole scenario. And he just marveled in the joy of just actually making food for once, even if it was a greasy double cheeseburger. And then he just let her go.
Yep.
That was weird. But then when the film ended, I let it sit for a second. I let it marinate. Since
Okay.
we're talking about food, I
Nice.
let it marinate for a second, and I realized that like it's supposed to be kind of like an indication of somebody who's actually bringing him back into his passion, which is what the people who were at the dinner were taking him out of in their own specific ways. So, um, I liked it. I don't see. I would watch it again. Like I try to judge movies in a way that like when would I watch it again? I would watch it again in 6 months or less,
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah,
and
and
that's good.
Yeah.
I think for the most part too, that ending, you have to realize throughout the movie they're always saying she wasn't supposed to be here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
everything that they had planned for Tyler is his name. Um, everything they had planned for his girlfriend like ends up not working for her
Right.
because Anna Taylor Joy's Margot character, she who she plays as is a prostitute, and Tyler
Yep.
did not care
Yeah.
Mhm.
about
Didn't
anything
care.
about her. It was kind of I really liked that twist right there with
That was
Tyler.
good.
Yep.
With Tyler knowing everything, I really enjoyed that. But I think for the most part, it was a lot of like that's kind of one of the reasons she got let go as well was
Yep.
because her and Ralph kind of understood each other at one point, and no matter what, like Ralph was continuing to say, "Hey, you don't belong here," and it's like, "Well, yeah, I don't. You're
Yeah.
right, I don't."
Yep.
So
I think it fits too with like the little line with the one like assistant when she asks him like, why am I here? And he's like, where did you go to school? And I think she says like, what, Yale or something? And he's like, do
mhm.
you have any student loans? And she's like, no, I don't. And he's like, you die. Like I like
You
it
die.
just yeah, like he wasn't. I took that as like with
Well, and she
her.
was also stealing money
Right.
from the
Right.
actor.
Like
Yeah.
he was so twisted in the way he was going to kill everybody, but it was almost like he was like a killer with a conscience where he was like, well, she hasn't done anything to deserve to die, so I will let her
Mm.
go. Doesn't matter to him because he's going to kill himself anyway, so he doesn't care if she gets away. What does it matter, you know? But yeah, I think it's just a well done movie. It's great.
It
Yeah,
is. Really enjoyed it.
Craig. What about Sick?
All
It's
right, so
sick.
Sick is
The talk of all this food has made me sick.
sick.
It's quite a mouthful.
A horror movie. Is this the first horror movie based on the pandemic? Has there been other one? I don't think there has been. I think this is the first one. So it's a horror movie based on the pandemic in 2020. It revolves around two girls who are going to the one girl's family's cabin to quarantine. This is right at the start of the pandemic. And then there is people that are trying to kill them. I don't want to give away the ending of the movie because that's the whole point. You watch this movie is trying to figure out who these people are and why they want to kill them. But I will say that it's certainly an ending. It's certainly a choice as to why they want to kill them. It was not. I didn't expect where they went with it. I can't say that I was like, oh, that's cool. It was just kind of like interesting. You know, that's it's a I would say you could watch it if you enjoy horror movies. I wouldn't say it's like a crazy twist, but I was like, okay, I see what they're going for. I don't need to watch this ever again, but it was entertaining at very bare minimum. Um, so you made the right choice watching The Menu instead. You could still
Glad.
watch it. You can still watch Sick if you want to, but I can't like wholeheartedly recommend it. I'll forget about it in next week. I guarantee it.
Nice.
But Megan, I finally got to see Megan. My daughter has been begging me to watch this movie since it came out in theaters. She's 10, but she loves horror movies. And so it finally came on digital to rent. So we rented it. What I can say about this movie is it's extremely well done. It's
Oh, okay.
it's funny. It's it's more sci-fi. The horror elements are at the very end, but it's definitely a more
Okay.
sci-fi feel with like this robot that's supposed to be for kids, obviously going crazy and killing people. Um, here's my issue with the movie, and I said this to my wife because she watched it as well. I will buy this movie when it comes out on 4K Blu-ray if they bundle it in with the R-rated / unrated version, because the deal with this movie is they filmed it as an R-rated movie, and then the distributor said, we want this to be PG-13 so more audience members can see it, right? So what you get is, with every single one of the deaths in this movie, is these very, very obvious cutaways so you don't see it. And like, I don't like that. I don't like it. It
Wow.
bothers me when they're like, oh, here she goes. This is a creative way to kill somebody, and then it just cuts. Like it'll cut to like, oh, here's like the blood pooling away or something, but not actually showing you what happens. And like, when you watch a horror movie, that's part of the reason you're watching it, right? It's like the creative way that whoever it is killing people. So if they give me that version, which I'm assuming they probably will, because it's already filmed, right? They already did it. I will buy it because I think it's a great movie. But as it stands, watching this PG-13 movie, I enjoyed it, but I was like a little annoyed that they did that. And there's
I can
very
imagine.
obvious cuts in the dialogue too to get rid of swear words as well. It's just very like, you can tell they're like, our movie is done, and then they're like, make it PG-13, and they're like, quick, cut, throw these cuts in here. We got to figure something out. And it's just very like, it looks hacked, like hacked together at points, which is a shame because the rest of the movie is phenomenal. So definitely a watch. Maybe wait and see if that R-rated version comes out, or unrated or whatever, and it'll have a much better time with it.
Definitely will.
Was there anything else you want to talk about, Craig, before The Last of Us? I know you said, was there another
Yeah,
movie you watched?
I got through the season 1 of White
That's
Lotus.
right. White Lotus.
I'm on to
Oh yeah,
season
yeah.
2.
How is it?
I don't have to say a whole lot about it other than that I really enjoy it. It's very
Okay.
different. Obviously it just revolves around a hotel, right? It's absolutely insane, the first season. Like they open up the first episode with like everybody waiting at the airport to leave to go back home from this resort in Hawaii, and they're like carting a body onto the airplane, and that's how they start it. And you're like, oh, which one of these characters is gonna die, right? So you're watching this whole season like, oh, it's gonna be this person, no, it's gonna be this one, no, it's definitely this one. And I got it wrong, which is cool. I like that kind of stuff, right? But they make you like, all the characters are great. Either they're funny, or like they do such a good job of making you hate them. The whole thing revolves around like this hotel catering to these extremely rich customers who are coming to stay, and they're all just overly entitled and obnoxious and that kind of stuff, which is, you're just like, oh my God, I hate this type of people. So it's like a fun hate watch. And then I just started season 2, but they added even more people into that. They got like Aubrey Plaza and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
in season 2. But yeah, it's definitely a good watch.
I might have to watch it then. Okay,
You
cool.
would enjoy
Yeah.
it for sure. You both would. I think you would.
All right, Last of Us Part 2. Or episode. Sorry, Last of Us Episode 2 from HBO Max. For the most part, and I can let you guys more or less take this because there isn't much for me to say. I just wanted to know more or less your opinion, because this episode really does deal with the second portion, the city portion. You finally get to meet clickers. Thought that was awesome.
Yes.
I like what they did with like the cordyceps and the like how the sun makes them react and that kind of thing. I do like their choices and the changes they made with that. I did want to ask you guys, because I was a little weirded out, I guess, by the ending scene with where Tess is kind of getting, I don't know, kissed to death.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
she's
that was
gonna
odd.
die. Like,
Yep.
did that feel off to you guys? Like, that was the only part of the episode where I was like, okay.
Well, I mean, I guess like they changed it from the game, right? Because in the game, it's not them getting overrun by clickers; it's that other group,
Humans. Yep.
humans, and she sacrifices herself in the same way to save them. So I took it as like, oh, are we not doing that group, or are they showing up later? Or I mean, it was a little weird though. The whole like, I'm gonna kiss you and transfer the fungi into your mouth. It was weird.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely. I don't know if that necessarily had to be completely done in the way that it was. You could have had a runner or a stalker getting very close to her as she was trying to, flick the lighter or whatever. But that's the way they chose to do it. It was an odd choice, though. I kind of was like, is this like a seventh grader or something, like with the first kiss kind of thing. It was just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was,
No, and that's what I mean. Like, it felt a little strange, and I think it was meant to be like disturbing
Yeah.
in a way.
mm,
But to me, it just was like we almost never see like love really portrayed throughout most of like The Last of Us in like
Second
that
one.
physical type of way. Is what I
Yeah.
want to say. Is and I don't know. I guess the first thought of like a zombie, I guess, is what we're used to, is like biting at them or going for the neck, but
Mm-hmm.
not like putting their
trying to
hands around their
French.
mouth
I
and then
guess. I
that
guess
that's
it. Do you think it's maybe because those infected already knew that she was infected? Because they're all connected. They made a point of saying that, like, they all feel the same thing.
You
So you
know
think
what?
maybe they're like he
maybe.
already knew, and that's why he didn't just attack her. Was like, oh, she's already infected.
That's a good point, Craig. Because like I had you remember in World War Z when they came across people that didn't have a host body good enough for the infection,
Right.
so they would run past them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt like in the beginning, where you saw the initial couple of cordyceps infected people running by her, like in the
Right.
background,
Mm-hmm.
and then the one notices her and goes up and then basically does its thing there. But like that's a good theory. That's a good theory. Is it kind of it just like passively,
Mm-hmm. Speeding
Yeah,
up
I
the
get,
process
non-aggressively,
for her, maybe.
yeah, I guess my
maybe.
only thinking is like if he bit her, she would have dropped the lighter anyway. I guess maybe if he infected her, the cordyceps could have like, if they have
Stopped
a
her.
mind of their own, stopped her from dropping the lighter. I guess that's really what it
Maybe.
is. I guess for me, it just felt a little bit off the weight end of scene. It doesn't ruin it for me. It's still a fantastic episode otherwise, and I'm excited to see where
Yeah.
we go
Mm-hmm.
now that we're kind of into the meat of everything here.
Right.
And yeah, just Last of Us again. If you're not watching it, you should be. It is really good.
I think.
If
Go ahead.
I was gonna say if that's what clickers look like, when they get a bloater going. But
Yeah.
like they nailed clickers,
Yep.
costume and design.
Yep.
Thank you, because like I was really nervous. I'm a big fan of clickers. They just made me feel a certain type of way when I played the game. I was nervous. I was always on edge at a very specific way when fighting clickers. I thought they were an amazing concept to put into that game. And I was hoping that they nailed it visually, and they did. They did.
Yeah.
Like incredible job there. I heard that they were very specific about who they had play clickers in particular to make sure that they really nailed the movement, because we all know what that looks like. Having to wait to find the perfect time to sneak by them when playing the game, you know. And then the last thing I wanted to say, if I can't think of anything else going forward, is it what you said, Craig, with the switch, because like I noticed that too, that like there wasn't the human scene that
Right.
was Tess's demise. It just makes it interesting to me of what they're going to choose in terms of what sneaking stealth moments are going to be because of another faction or because of the cordyceps. Because when they start, because they're going to do the two brothers, when they bring in the
Right.
two brothers, or like that scene when you first arrive into Pittsburgh, not to spoil anything, but you do crash into a building when you arrive to Pittsburgh, and there is a huge human fighting scene. Like, is
Right.
that in or is it out? I'm not going to ruin the other big ones, but like that's not really that big of a scene. But like it's going forward, I'm going to be more curious as to what cordyceps moment stays in, what
Mm-hmm.
faction moment stays in, because I can still tell you around this point in the game, there is in the game a, a like 15 clicker moment.
Yeah.
And you guys know which one I'm talking about. Again, it doesn't really ruin it for the show watchers who didn't play the game. There's just a moment where there's like 12 to 15 clickers.
Yep.
It feels like, and you got to get by them. Is that in the game or in the show? Because that was a dope part in the
Mm-hmm.
game. So like that's what I'm curious for and excited for as somebody who beat the game and played it more than once.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm willing to give them liberty to do whatever they want, as long as when we get to season 2, we get the scene with the whistle and the arrow. That's literally all I care about. Like, I
Oh my
want that in
god! I
there.
wonder if it's gonna. Yeah, I wonder if it'll get me the same way.
That has to be in there at some point. I think this episode, I felt like I saw a lot more nods to the game. Specifically like when they get to the hotel, her like messing with the bell at the front desk was from the game. Her saying she can't swim, such a big part of that game where she can't swim and you have to like push her across on planks the whole time. And I don't have any concrete evidence to back this up, but I am willing to die on the hill that scene with the clickers, that room that they're in, is from Uncharted 3. I'm just sticking to that I 100% think it's from Uncharted 3. When you start that game, when you're young Nathan Drake and he's in that museum to steal something, I am like convinced that that's the same room, and that was like Neil Druckmann's nod to Uncharted.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
wow.
I don't have
Maybe
anything
that's
to
what
back
we're
it up.
getting.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say that it is because I want to believe that it is. But like,
I love that.
they walked into that room and I was like, that's Uncharted. That's the Uncharted museum. It has to be. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. But yeah, I mean, still as hyped as I was from the first episode on this one.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Any other lasting remarks from the group here?
Nope.
Perfect. Nope. Well, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate any help that or any listeners that have decided to listen all the way through here. If you feel so inclined, please make sure to leave a review on your podcast listening platform of choice. It helps us get recommended out to other people. Leave a review. We appreciate it. And if you also could, make sure you share it with a friend that you think that might like it as well. If you're interested in kind of getting in touch with us, we have a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitch, and a Twitter. Twitch, you're probably not going to get. I need to Twitch more, but I'll get there one day, I think. Regardless, like Instagram, I've been very active on. I'm trying to be as active as I possibly can on it now in order to help us grow. So you'll probably see a lot more stuff from the Twitter, at least from me. I can guarantee that much. And Craig's been posting stuff on Instagram as well, so just make sure to comment and that kind of thing. We love the engagement, and I'd like to see more engagement from the people that listen from us. So, with that, finally, thank you again for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Later, guys.